Although the name of this chapter is Cubism from Balzac, there is another hidden name. It is a battle against a super dragon. Nietzsche had left one prophecy in Part 2. It was duty required since Picasso becomes a superman. Zarathustra said, "For, that the superman may not lack his dragon, the super dragon worthy of him, much hot sunshine must yet burn upon damp primeval forests." Picasso, he had to fight against the super dragon. There was no question of why. Because it was prophecy of Nietzsche, his master. And he, Picasso, was the enthusiastic Nietzsche believer, and was Nietzsche's pupil. Picasso had to fight against the super dragon. The super dragon was Matisse. Matisse was regarded as the leader of avant-garde pictures, and was an expert of the argument. In order to beat him, Picasso had to equip this picture with the powerful arms, far beyond the original schedule. It was powerful secret weapons. From now on, let's see Picasso's a secret weapon. When the picture was completed, Picasso showed this picture to many friends. Russian collector Sergei Shchukin said, "It's deplorable loss for French fine arts." Ballard said to Max, "Your friend went mad." Wilhelmuth said, "I cannot understand this African style." Conweller said, "Derain said to me personally that Picasso would be found hanging behind his own painting one day." Manolo said, "Really? Imagine your relatives waiting for you on a platform of the Barcelona station with mugs like that." They ignored her without accepting. Max Jacob and Daniel Henry Conweller had become silent here. However, there were the people who discussed it with Picasso here. There was the testimony that Picasso talked about something for eloquence. His first partner Olivier wrote, "I remember a discussion about Cubism which took place in Picasso's studio. When, despite all Picasso's arguments, which were put with great reasonableness and clarity on that occasion, Braque refused to be convinced. But in spite of your explanations," he answered finally, "you paint as if you wanted to force us to eat trope or drink paraffin." His reaction was just as expected. Zarathustra said, "And only now does the great terror, the great prospect, the great sickness, the great disgust, the great seasickness come to it." Zarathustra said, "Truly, my happiness and my freedom come like a storm. But my enemies shall think the evil one is raging over their heads." Yes, you too, my friends, will be terrified by my wild wisdom, and perhaps you will flee from it together with my enemies. Apollinaire, who was not easily shocked, said, "It's a revolution." Salomon was the first to call the painting Le Bordel Avino. Apollinaire then suggested Le Bordel philosophique. Leo Stein burst out laughing and said, "You have been trying to paint the fourth dimension." Many people testify that Picasso had a scientific logic. Picasso's scientific logic was powerful, and no one was able to defeat Picasso logically. According to André Salmon, these figures are not gods, nor are they titans or heroes. They are not even allegories or symbols. They are naked problems, white numbers on a blackboard. This painting lays down the principle of the picture equation. Painting from this point on was to be a science. Matisse, out of his normal calm, he lost his temper and talked of getting even with Picasso. Picasso, he knocked down the super dragon. Matisse. Great reasonableness and clarity. In spite of your explanations. Revolution. Philosophique. Fourth dimension. Principle of the picture equation. A science. We understand that Picasso was telling something eloquently here. It was the theory that was able to defeat Matisse, who was good at discussion. It was revolutionary theory, and it was very clear logic, and it was science and philosophical. The reason that Matisse was enraged was that Picasso used sophism at this time. And it was not Nietzsche. Now I can show you the another code book, what Picasso used. The theory that he expressed was coming from this book. Unknown Masterpiece, 1831, written by Honour de Balzac. This is the second hidden code book. This was Picasso's secret weapons. This short novel was written in 1831, and corrected after that several times. The book began from the strange dedications as 1845. The story is simple. The young painter Nicolas Poussin meets a mysterious old man accidentally in front of a house of popular figure painter Franz Purvis. With the old person Fraunhofer, Poussin enters into the studio of Purvis. Fraunhofer was the mysterious painter. He denied the painting which Purvis drew. The old man had a devilish skill. When an old man adds a touch to a picture of Poussin, it becomes splendid, attractive. They have been surprised at his ability. He was taught a secret to draw a thing on three-dimensionally by his master. And he was drawing the picture of a living woman. He spent 10 years on it. Old man like a daemon artist. Talk about the art and the painting. It was a completely surprising theory. Fraunhofer said about the picture that Purvis painted once. Fraunhofer said, quite good? Well, yes and no. Your good woman is not badly got up, but there's no life in her. You all think you've done what needs to be done. When you've drawn a face correctly, and put everything in the proper place, according to the laws of anatomy. You color this or that feature with a flesh tone mixed in advance on your palette, taking care to make one side darker than the other. And because from time to time you look at a naked woman standing on a table, you think you've succeeded in copying nature. You imagine yourselves to be painters, and you fancy you have stolen God's secret from him. Ha! Fraunhofer said, you draw a woman, but you do not really see her. That is not the way to force nature to give up her secrets. Without any conscious thought, your hand reproduces the model you copied in your master's studio. Fraunhofer said, What is missing? Nothing. But that nothing is everything. You have caught the appearance of life, but you are not expressing its fullness, and the way the fullness overflows. No, my friend. Blood does not flow beneath this ivory skin. The crimson dew of life does not swell the network of veins and capillaries intertwining beneath the amber transparency of her temples and breast. Here is life, movement, their only stillness. In every piece, life and death struggle with each other. Here is a woman. There is a statue. There again a corpse. Your creation is unfinished. You were able to breathe only a portion of your soul into your cherished work. Your outlines are false, too disconnected, and give no promise of anything behind. There is some truth here, said the old man, pointing to the breast of the saint. Here too, he continued, signaling the point in the picture with the shoulder finished. But there, he said, coming back to the center of the throat, everything is false. Here it is the logic that is able to understand, although it is strong so far. However, he begins to attack a picture from an unbelievable angle next. Fraunhofer continued. To be a great poet, it is not enough to know your syntax to perfection and to avoid grammatical errors. Look at your saint, Porbus. At first glance, she seems wonderful. But a second look reveals that she is stuck to the background of the painting, and that one couldn't walk around her. She is a silhouette with one side to her only, a figure cut out, an image which cannot turn around, cannot change position. He insists that a picture is plain. He pointed out that a conventional picture was plain. He insisted that the picture should have been drawn three-dimensionally. This was a prototype of the Cubism. Fraunhofer continued. Unlike that mass of ignoramuses, who imagine they can draw correctly, because their line is oh so cleanly defined. I have not marked the outlines of my figure badly, nor have I brought into relief the minutest anatomical details. For the human body is not bound by lines. In this respect, sculptors can get closer to the truth than painters. Nature consists of a succession of rounded forms, enveloping each other. Strictly speaking, drawing does not exist. Human body is not bound by lines. Nature consists of a succession of rounded forms enveloping each other. These were sophism. It looked right, logically, and, in fact, was wrong. Fraunhofer appealed. Don't laugh, young man. However peculiar my thought may seem to you, one day you will understand the reasoning behind it. Line is the method by which man realizes the effect of light upon objects. But there are no lines in nature, where everything is rounded. We draw by modeling. That is to say, we detach things from their setting. The distribution of light alone supplies the visual appearance of the body. It is sophism. That is the theory that it seems to be right logically, and is wrong. Fraunhofer made the sculpture the example and proved his logic. he said. Otherwise the work of a sculptor would be done. If he made a cast of the woman modeling for him. Well, try casting the hand of your mistress. When you study it, you will find you have a horrible corpse before you, bearing no resemblance to the living hand. And you will have no choice but to go and find the chisel of the man, who, without making an exact copy of the hand, will fashion for you its movement and its life. It is Sufism. That is the theory that it seems to be right logically, and is wrong. Fraunhofer makes a poet the example and discuss the purpose of an art. Fraunhofer said, "The mission of art is not to copy nature, but to express it. You're a poet, not some paltry copyist." Beautiful logic. It is Sufism. That is the theory that it seems to be right logically, and is wrong. It was a stout armor and was also the strong spear. This was the secret weapon of Picasso. It is remarkable Sufism. It is very difficult to refute. And it was an almighty weapon in discussion. The person who used it was invincible. It was the principle that Picasso explained to people as his opinion. Here, he performed Fraunhofer written by Balzac. It was his secret weapons. Great reasonableness and clarity. In spite of your explanations. Revolution. Philosophique. Fourth dimension. Principle of the picture equation. A science. It was taking part in fourth dimension and was a revolution and was science and was a clear theory. This was the theory that knocked down Matisse and Braque. It was the stage where Picasso performed Balzac Fraunhofer. He was a good actor. Maybe. Both Braque and Matisse are commented in 1908. I couldn't portray a woman in all her natural loveliness. Braque. I cannot copy nature in blind obedience. Matisse. A sensitive person will understand that these were their answers for Picasso. At last they see the Fraunhofer's picture. To see a picture? What did Poussin say? He was disappointed really. Poussin said, "I see nothing there but confused masses of colors, contained by a multitude of strange lines, forming a high wall of paint." Confused masses of colors contained by a multitude of strange lines, forming a high wall of paint. Let's compare the depiction in Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. We are able to discover many similarities. Space between the human bodies with a special description. Isn't it the confused masses of colors contained by a multitude of strange lines? And another important characteristic was shown in Balzac. Next moment, they discover the foot that is seen into the wall of confused colors. And they knew that the woman was drawn remarkably there. Balzac wrote, "We are wrong," said Porbus. "Look." Moving closer, they noticed in the corner of the canvas the tip of a bare foot emerging from the chaos of colors, tones and vague hues, a shapeless fog. But it was a delicious foot, a living foot. "There is a woman underneath," exclaimed Porbus, bringing to Poussin's attention the layers of colors. In Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, three women take out a foot from the drapery. Drapery is confused masses of colors contained by a multitude of strange lines. Balzac wrote, "The tip of a bare foot emerging from the chaos of colors, tones and vague hues, a shapeless fog, but it was a delicious foot, a living foot." Especially the right foot of the woman on the right side is dissolving into the depiction like cloth. Here was a shapeless fog, fragment of bare foot. The special attention was not paid to the foot, and there was no curtain in the prototype of this picture that was painted in 1906. These were designs of the next stage. In 1906 to 1907, the woman was going to open a drop curtain. Her right foot was covered in a drop curtain. Poussin and Porbus explained to the old man that his picture was only the wall of colors. The strange artist who was told the fact burns the picture and have died. By the way, we must watch the picture which an old man failed in. What kind of picture was it? And what was drawn? And what kind of relations are there between the picture and Les Demoiselles d'Avignon? And let's see how this code book influenced the strange development of the Cubism after that. Unknown Masterpiece, 1831. Written by Honoré de Balzac. This short novel was written in 1831, and corrected after that several times. Probably, this art theory had a painter's participation. For example, it was Denis Diderot's 1713, Eugene Delacroix 1798, E.T. Hoffmann 1776. However, possibly, the philosophy portion and the sophism portion belonged to Balzac. They were the sophism of a line, sophism of poetry, sophism of sculpture, etc. Balzac wrote several similar novels. Moreover, Balzac also created the avant-garde book, which cannot be read since the printing type was set at random. He was just a mother of avant-garde art. By the way, we must watch the picture which an old man Fraunhofer failed in. What kind of picture was it? And what was drawn? And what kind of relations are there between the picture and Les Demoiselles d'Avignon? Let's try to see the picture in detail. And let's break his code. Fraunhofer said, "Whoever saw it would believe he was observing a woman lying on a velvet couch, beneath the surrounding curtains. Beside her, on a golden tripod, perfumes are burning. You would be tempted to grasp the tassel of the cords which hold back the curtains, and you would be sure you had seen a movement of Catherine's breast as she breathed. But I should still want to be absolutely certain. A woman, curtains, a tripod were in the picture. The prototype of this picture was drawn in 1906. There, neither curtain nor tripod was drawn. Soon, any combination of a curtain and a woman came to be drawn. In Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, The right woman touched a drop curtain with the left hand. The left woman opened a drop curtain with both hands. 3 drop curtains were drawn in the picture of Picasso. Why was curtain important? That is because Fraunhofer explained that space was expressed by a drop curtain and cloth shaking. Old man said, "See how this drapery is now fluttering, and how one senses the breeze lifting it. Before, she seemed like a piece of canvas, stiff and supported by pins. A lot of drapery was drawn in Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. It was drawn like the Poussin's word. I see nothing there but confused masses of colors contained by a multitude of strange lines, forming a high wall of paint." Fraunhofer said, "Notice how the satin sheen which I have just given. The breast is an appropriate rendering of the lithe softness of a young girl's skin, and how the mixed tone of red, brown and burnt ochre warms up the dull coldness of this deep shadow, where the blood froze instead of flowing freely. The color of the curtain of the right and background of left were the mixed tone of red, brown and burnt ochre. The table was drawn under middle of the screen. It was not a square table. It seemed to be the table of 3 legs. Probably, this was substitution of tripod." Franz Purbus said, "Ah, if I weren't always ill," replied Purbus, "and if you would only let me see your mistress, I could paint a picture high and wide and deep, with life-size figures." Purbus said life-size figures. The size of Les Demoiselles d'Avignon is 243.9 centimeters, 96 inch in height. Figures size was life-size. It was in 1906 that Picasso began to copy Balzac. In 1906, Picasso began to draw Gertrude Stein's portrait. It runs into difficulties. It was not completed, even if Gertrude did the model about 3 months. For these 3 months, he considered drawing a picture based on the recipe of Balzac. In the spring of 1906, Picasso and Olivier carried out to Gosol of Spain. Picasso drew many sketches here. It was the influence of Balzac that Picasso went out to Ypres. When Fraunhofer had difficulty, he said that I want to go out to a trip. Picasso, he was an imitator. He imitated Fraunhofer and has begun to play Fraunhofer. In the unknown masterpiece, there is the totally same scene. Fraunhofer answered Purbus. "Alas!" cried the old man. "For a brief moment, I thought I had completed my work, but I am certain I have made some mistakes of detail, and I shall not rest until I have thrown light on them. I have made up my mind to travel, and shall go to Turkey, to Greece, to Asia, for the purpose of finding a model, and comparing my picture to diverse types from nature. Perhaps," he said, allowing himself a smile of contentment, "perhaps nature herself is upstairs." In Gosol, Picasso drew many sketches here. Autumn in 1906, the woman of the hotel became a light infectious disease. He claimed returning to Paris immediately. He was a very cowardly person. Picasso and Olivier returned to Paris in autumn. Picasso finished a portrait of Gertrude Stein quickly. In Paris, Picasso began the challenge to a new style. At first, the composition that a woman is under curtain was drawn. Next, the picture that both sides of the body were arranged was drawn. Fraunhofer said, "She is a silhouette with one side to her only. A figure cut out. An image which cannot turn around, cannot change position." This was his answer to Fraunhofer Balzac. He drew both sides of the body. This was tried several times. His picture became geometric next. This was related with the words that Purvis said about Fraunhofer. Purvis said about Fraunhofer, in moments of despair, he claims that drawing does not exist, and that all you can render with lines are geometrical figures. This part was the prototype of words of Cézanne. Cézanne was an enthusiastic pupil of Balzac. Fraunhofer, he said, nature must be expressed as a sphere, a cone, and a cylinder type. Cézanne was the first pupil of Balzac. Fraunhofer. Picasso was the second pupil of Balzac. Fraunhofer. At 1907 it was necessary for Picasso to put distance from Cézanne. Soon Picasso's rough sketch changed to a completely different tune from geometrical one. This was also related with the in other words that Fraunhofer said. Fraunhofer said, "Those are the real curves of a young woman. Have I not caught to perfection the color, the quick of the line which seems to encircle the body?" He said quick of the line which seems to encircle the body. Outline changed compared with the first prototype. Picasso, who was a pupil of Balzac. Fraunhofer. He already had many recipes and excuses. Recipes and excuses. There is no line in a nature. Since an artist is a poet, he does not imitate nature. That all we can render with lines are geometrical figures. Anatomical details are meaningless. Do not reproduce the model you copied in your master's studio. The quick of the line which seems to encircle the body is impotent. Let's see the painting style of outlines. It was period from the autumn of 1906 to the summer of 1907. The form was completed in this way. Fraunhofer described how to draw the space around people. Fraunhofer said, "You see how with 3 or 4 brush strokes and a bluish glaze the air could be said to circulate around the head of this poor saint, who must have felt stifled and trapped in the close atmosphere." Fraunhofer said, "That bluish glazing is required to the boundary of the human body. It expresses that air goes. There are many a bluish glaze between the body." Let's see a prototype once again. The blue color and curtain were not painted to the prototype. Fraunhofer said, "Is it not the same phenomenon objects present to us? in their own atmosphere, like fish in water. Admire the way the contours stand out from the background. Doesn't it seem as though you could pass your hand over the girl's back? Like fish in water, the old man said. Draw the space between human bodies to be refracted. Isn't it this portion? Fraunhofer talked about Mebuse's picture. My poor master surpassed himself in this. But some part of truth is still lacking in the background. The man is alive, he stands up and is about to walk towards us. In Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, the central person stands up and seems to go towards us. But the air, the sky, the wind we breathe, see and feel, are missing. Here he said, the air, the sky, the wind we breathe. Now we were able to discover the word, sky, clearly here. A blue sky, a cloud and the sun, are drawn here. And this blue sky is drawn like drapery. The sun which we watched before, was a part of sky, definitely. Fraunhofer said, perhaps it would be better to attack a figure from the middle, by applying oneself first to the most prominently illumined parts, proceeding thereafter to darker areas. Is this not the method of the sun, the divine painter of the universe? To attack a figure from the middle. Is this not the method of the sun, the divine painter of the universe? Here was the suggestion that the sun should have been drawn in the center of the subject. The eyes of the side near the sun were drawn more brightly. Fraunhofer said, therefore I have not clearly highlighted individual features, but spread over the outlines a haze of warm and golden half-tints which mean you cannot place your finger on the exact place where the background and contours meet. From close-up the work seems fuzzy and lacking definition, but take 2 steps back, and the whole thing consolidates itself, acquires its own space, and stands out. The body can turn round. The forms become prominent. You feel the air circulating. Fraunhofer said, to come to such a glorious pass, I studied in depth the great masters of coloring. I analyzed, removing layer after layer, the paintings of Titian, the king of light. I have, like that sovereign painter, sketched out my figure in a clear tone, with a supple thick-laid impasto. For shadow is but an accident of light. Take that in, youngster. Then I went back over my work, and by means of half-tints and glazes, whose transparency I diminished in stages, I created the most vigorous shadows and the deepest of blacks. For the shadows of ordinary painters are of a completely different nature from their highlights. They are adorabres or what you will, anything but flesh in shadow. One feels that if a figure changed position, the place of its shadow would not grow clean and luminous. I have avoided this error, into which some of the most illustrious painters have fallen, and in my work, whiteness shines through the opacity of the most deeply sustained shadow. If you look at my work attentively, you will understand better what I want telling you about how to treat relief and contours. Look closely at the light of the breast, and see how, by a series of touched and highlights set in strong impastos, I have succeeded in catching the real light and working it in with the shining white of the lit tones. And how, with a contrary skill, effacing the juts and grain of the impasto, by dint of drowning the contours of my figure in kisses of half-tint, I have contrived to do away with the very idea of drawing and other artificial methods, and give her the rounded aspect of nature itself. Come closer. You will get a better view of this work. From afar it disappears. But here, look, it is very remarkable, in my opinion. And with the tip of his brush he pointed out a patch of bright color to the two painters. Fraunhofer said, however, still I am not happy, still I have my doubts. Perhaps I should not draw one single line. Furthermore, the different way of excuse was given by Fraunhofer. Fraunhofer said, that was how Raphael worked, said the old man. His greatness and superiority derived from the inmost sense, which in him seems intent on bursting the form. Raphael, king of art, bursting the form. For Picasso, it became a good excuse that Raphael was so. He used this skillfully after it. Various demands were written, however were all difficult. It was rather impossible. Anyway, he carried him out from impossible thing. Let's see the details of the outlines. In Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, this picture had many kinds of outlines. This variety was abnormal. His other pictures do not have such outlines. These various pattern of outlines show that he did various researches. However, he was not made successful at all. He worries for several months and must have been in pain. Autumn in 1907. In the autumn of 1907, this picture stopped change. He understood that it was not necessary to modify this picture anymore. The picture had become a work full of mysteries. He thought that it was the time to show it to friends. The picture was not perfect. However, he had secret weapons learned from Fraunhofer. Many sophisms of Fraunhofer were the strongest armor and spear. He would add the sophistry of Fraunhofer to the thought of Nietzsche. He decided to challenge a super dragon with those weapons. With those arms, he knocked down the super dragon, Mattis, and get a partner, Rack. Blue sky and sun were drawn on the picture. In Balzac Fraunhofer, the sun was a part of sky, and wind and air, and it expressed the space between human bodies. And also the sun drawn in the middle of a picture was a symbol of the divine painter of the universe. And Nietzsche's Zarathustra also described the sun repeatedly. It was a surprising thing. The sun was a code corresponding to Balzac, Fraunhofer and Nietzsche, Zarathustra. It was double-coded. It was a very gorgeous code. It was his challenge to draw the sun here. Probably he might have applied a mystery to the people who see this picture. Do you understand why the sun was drawn here? This was the mystery that he applied. Picasso. He was a probationer of Nietzsche. He quoted words of Nietzsche here. This picture was a word that had the meaning of a provocation for everybody. This was the meaning of this picture. He quoted words of Nietzsche here. What am I? An intoxicated, sweet liar. A midnight liar. A croaking bell, which no one understands but which has to speak before deaf people, you higher men. For you do not understand me. In Nietzsche, the sun was a symbol of a new departure, and it was the words necessary for Picasso to play Zarathustra. Nietzsche, Zarathustra said, "My suffering and my pity, what of them? For do I aspire after happiness? I aspire after my work. Very well. The lion has come, my children are near, Zarathustra has become ripe, my hour has come. This is my morning, my day begins, rise up now, rise up, great noontide." There was the stage where he played Fraunhofer in Zarathustra. Autumn of 1907 showtime started. Please watch what following, in numerical order.